Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Project Lemons to Lemonade. Our next guest co founded the Social Impact Lab with United Way of Calgary and has changed his perspective on the purpose of business and the importance of thinking about corporate success. It's less about economic return and more about impacting lives in the community. He started a business that paid his way through university, teaching him at a very young age that in business and in life, if he's creative and works hard, he can create his own destiny. And he's passionate about travel, gets his best ideas and inspiration exploring other countries and cultures, making him think differently about the world around him. Please welcome John Vardalos from J5. Hi, John. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, thanks for having me. It's great to see you again.
It is definitely nice to see you again.
Yeah.
We've been talking about social impact, and one of the things that's really been striking me over the last couple of weeks is how much businesses are going to change and how consumers are going to go out of their way to visit businesses that they feel are safer or are making a more impact in the community. And even if we loved something before, we might, go find new things or new businesses to support. And that's a lot of work that you do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think right now what people are experiencing is they're seeing how this pandemic is affecting them personally, in their families, their mental health, the isolation from loved ones, particularly elderly people. It's starting to open our eyes, I think, a little bit more to some of the things that we might be having to deal with in the future that we've never had to deal with before, that are not necessarily all about kind of economic prosperity. I think the issues that we're going to start to face and that we're already facing around some of the social sector challenges that are out there also require innovation and also require us to start thinking about what we might be able to do differently in the future.
And you are an expert at innovation. A lot of companies consult with you, different organizations, on how they could be more innovative, how they can go from. I love the concept that you teach, that you have like your regular business, but then you have like shoot for the moon kind of thing. And how do you transition or keep working slowly towards that different situation, because we always need to change, like times change as we see here right now, but you've been teaching this forever. So how does a company change what they're doing quickly now?
Yeah, I think we've always said that the mother of innovation is necessity. It's, a lot of people don't think about innovation unless they have to. So companies might go through certain ebbs and flows where they're being disrupted, or their customers are changing what their expectations are of dealing with that organization. Right now, though, we're all experiencing the same challenge. The pandemic is not allowing us to work in the old ways that we were working. So if you're a retail organization, if you're a restaurant, you have to close your doors down. People can't come in and out of your space like they used to. It's forcing them to start thinking differently about things like curbside pickup. If you're a consulting business like us that had part of the value proposition was bringing organizations into your space to be more creative, and now we can't bring those people into our environment, we have to figure out how to pivot and start to build relationships and deliver services in this remote online way. So I think what's happening now is that everybody has to change. Everybody has to innovate, and that's putting pressure on people as individuals and as corporations to start to think about how they might be able to do that. And to your point, we typically tell clients, they're usually very good. Companies are usually very good at executing their known business model. And they're very good at rewarding their employees for reliability and consistency. They're not necessarily as good rewarding their companies for taking chances and taking risks. So when you're searching for a new business model, it's a very different process and a very different way of working than if you're executing a known one. Mm-hmm. So what we try to do with our clients is encourage them to take chances, encourage them to adopt different methodologies and tools to help them be able to think differently about their customers and what their future business might look like.
So what can companies do today with their virtual teams to work on innovation or try to find new opportunities for themselves?
I think one of the things is, encouraging and building a culture within the organization to allow people to try things. The tendency for a lot of status quo based organizations is when somebody has a new idea or wants to challenge the the way that they've always been doing it is, oh, we've already tried that, or that will never work, or a whole bunch of other excuses. Today, you've got to create a culture where when somebody has an idea, you give them the space and the time, and you recognize that that might be a great idea worth exploring, and allow them to experiment and try different things. And in this time when people are feeling, such a sense of, you know, confusion and uncertainty, it's really important to give people that opportunity to be able to be creative. Because if we're all in our own homes working in a very traditional way, doing everything step by step, waiting for someone else to tell us what to do next, we're probably not going to get out of this in the same way that we might if we start to really create an environment with our teams and our people where we're saying, hey, if you got an idea, just try it.
Mhm. Yeah, we need like that collective brain. And usually, like entrepreneurs and business owners, we're so used to like leading the vision, and then everybody kind of follows and does whatever needs to happen. But now we're in a time where we're like, okay, team, everybody's idea is a good idea. We need to explore all these different options because it has to be that collective brain, right? And your team knows what they're capable of, so they're able to probably come up with several ideas that the organization can do instead of just one person carrying that whole load.
I think the one thing about the pandemic that's really interesting is that, being a great leader typically requires you to unite people around a common purpose. And historically, if you look at Calgary or Alberta, we are exceptional at uniting around crises. So the Alberta fires, when we had the fires, when we had the floods, and now the pandemic, we've proven as a community that we're actually very good at mobilizing when there's a big problem and we have a common purpose. And right now we have a common purpose. We've got this invisible enemy, or whatever you want to call it, that we're all figuring out together how to exist differently, how to work differently, how to quarantine ourselves. And it's pretty amazing that not just like locally, but globally, we're all coming together around this. And for me, I think that that's the future. I think that the big takeaway for a lot of companies is start to realize that with the right purpose and with the right problem, if we can get an organization aligned around that, the things we can do are incredible. I think part of the reason why companies struggle innovating is because they've never come together and identified what's the real problem they want to solve and for who. So, in this pandemic, we know what the problem is. We know what we need to do. We're all united. So the things that we're doing are now happening faster. And I feel like in the future, if companies can start to do that, unite their employees around a purpose, their own purpose, it will be pretty impressive what we can accomplish.
Mm-hmm. And is that something that should be happening every day, once a week? Like, what are you teaching companies right now? What can they be doing?
I think what a lot of companies are doing right now is having a lot more of these touch points with Zoom, staying connected with each other. I had a conversation with my next door neighbor who's a lawyer yesterday on our front lawn, minding the
Proper
social
distance.
yeah, on the proper distance. But he was saying that he's been picking up the phone a lot and just calling people and just having conversations, making sure that they're doing okay, asking them what he can do to help them. I think in times like this, over communication and really staying connected to each other is critical. When you show up on a meeting, you show up and try to be positive, but at the same time, be willing to be vulnerable. If you're not feeling great, it's okay. It's okay to tell people that you're struggling, you're having a tough time, and ask for help. Because if we don't have that vulnerability with each other, we'll never be able to build that culture of trust. And that culture of trust is what ultimately allows people to take chances and try new things. So I think it all starts with people and coming together and being there for each other.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't thought about that. The vulnerability leading to the culture of trust, leading to the place where ideas are safe and created. Thank you so much, John. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Bye.